Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be looking at this Mahogany piece that I got off Facebook Marketplace. I paid $250 for it, which I think is worth it. This piece has some beautiful crotch mahogany veneer, and actually I was shocked to find when I went to pick it up that this piece is actually solid mahogany. I'll show you a little bit later on how I was able to tell that this is actually completely solid wood, aside from the drawer faces, which are a beautiful crotch mahogany veneer. This piece is probably close to being an antique. You could see the beautiful feet that this piece has, along with these beautiful giant pillars in the front, which I think is just an excellent touch. Now I think for this piece, I'm going to be sanding the top and the draw faces to 600 grit. So when I apply the Odie's oil, which is what I'm going to be using for my finish, it's going to have a beautiful shine to it. Now there is quite a bit of damage on this piece. There is a few chunks missing out of the pillars on the base, and you can see these pillars I just pulled right off because they were just being held on by those dowels. The glue has completely failed. Along with the feet, they're pretty much just being held on by dowels as well. And you can see inside these drawers definitely need a bit of work. They're very old and stale, but I do love those drawer dividers. The drawers have double dovetail construction, which is definitely a plus. And you'll see in a second, there's quite a bit of veneer damage on this piece. There's damage almost on every single drawer, which is going to be a pain to fix, but I'm going to do my best. So sit back, relax, and let's get into it. Alright, so as just like any other project, I'm going to start by removing all the hardware. And now this hardware I'm really not that crazy about. I'm not a fan of this style of hardware, but it is original to this piece, so I'm going to be polishing it up and keeping it. Now this hardware is solid brass, so I can't wait to polish it up. It's going to shine so nicely when I'm finished with it. And as usual, I'm just going to take my solo cup here for all my hardware so I don't lose them, and I'm just going to put it to the side until later. Alright, time to clean. I'm coming in with MCS cleaner and degreaser to get rid of all the grime and dirt and whatever is left on this piece from decades of use. You really want to make sure that you don't skip this step. This is a really important step because later on when you go to sand, if you don't clean and you sand, you're going to be grinding down all of that dirt and debris into the wood fibers, and it's going to affect how your stain takes or how your finish adheres. Even though I'm going to be stripping this piece, it might seem kind of pointless to be cleaning because I'm just going to be taking off the whole finish anyway. If there are any spots that I missed, it's going to most likely show in the final result. So I cleaned pretty much every square inch of this piece. Now just getting into a few minor repairs here. As I said in the intro, there are a few corners of these beautiful pillars that have chipped off. So I'm just going to be adding a little bit of glue to both surfaces, putting them back together, and then clamping them up. And it's the same thing with this piece right here. And I'm just going to put this to the side for now. And I'm sorry, unfortunately my phone didn't record me stripping the top, so it's just going to pick up here with me cleaning up all the residue from stripping. I use acetone to clean up all the stripper gunk left over. A lot of people like to use mineral spirits. I just find that acetone for me personally works better. And now I'm going to start stripping the sides. By the way, if anyone's unfamiliar with what this stuff is, this is paint stripper, which is a chemical used to cut through layers of finish or paint. And remember, you always want to be wearing gloves and a respirator when you're using this stuff. It's extremely toxic. You could see I don't have a respirator on because in my haste of making this video, I just completely forgot to put it on. So you definitely don't want to follow my lead there. But yeah, PPE is just extremely important to remember while using these chemicals. This lacquer finish that they had on this piece was really thick. I had to apply 3 coats of this stripper just to get through it. But we're getting it done. Now this is a stripper pad, and you use this to basically scrub the finish off instead of using a putty knife. And this is really good for those hard to reach areas or really decorative areas. And as you can see, I'm just cutting it into 3 little pieces, and I'm going to start scrubbing away. Now I'm actually going to be leaving some finish in between those little spaces because it's going to basically leave a little bit of a shadow, and I think it's going to look pretty cool in the end. I hope I explained that well enough. Here I'm just wiping down the paint stripper residue with acetone. Just flipping him on his back so I can get at the feet and inside the carcass. Now these feet are really cool. They resemble like dragon claws or something like that, and I think it's a really nice touch for this piece. Now I'm just sanding the surface over here because this is where the old glue used to be, and I don't want any old glue to remain because wood glue only sticks to wood fibers. It won't adhere if there's still other wood glue there. So I'm just making sure that there's raw wood showing. I'm just adding some glue, and I'm going to spread it around with my finger and attach the feet. And of course, you always want to remember to use clamps because wood glue needs that pressure to be able to bond successfully. And while that glue is drying, I'm going to start stripping the drawers. Alright, it's time to take off the clamps, and the feet are looking pretty good. There's only one problem on this foot right here. I have to actually fabricate 2 toes because the 2 toes actually on either side broke off. So that'll be fun. And now I'm just giving the whole carcass inside and out a really good sanding. And I have to say, this piece is quite beautiful. 90% of this wood is actually solid mahogany, along with a couple strips of poplar here and there. But yeah, it's mostly mahogany, along with those 2 big pillars that go in the front. Alright, just lifting him back on his feet, and I gotta say, this piece is quite heavy for the size. And now I'm going to start sanding the top with 180 grit. And I'm going to be going all the way to 600 grit on the top and on the drawer faces because I really want this beautiful mahogany wood to shine. And I'm going to be using Odie's oil for my finish. And with Odie's oil, the sheen is controlled by how high you sand. So if I were to sand to 220, it probably wouldn't have as much of a shine as it's going to. And you'll probably remember this from my last video. This is a sanding sponge from Surf Prep, and this thing makes it so easy to sand around contoured edges, to sand in all those hard to reach spots that you would normally have to hand sand to get to. And I'm going to begin slowly sanding my way all the way up to 600 grit. Now, when you're sanding all the way up to 600 grit, you really want to make sure that you're climbing up through the grits correctly. So I'm going to be going from 180 to 220 to 320, then 400, and finally 600 grit. If you don't progress through these grits the right way, your finish is going to end up being, well, number one, not as good, but you're also probably going to get a bunch of those pigtail swirls. So it's really important to remember that. And again here, I'm just using the pencil trick where you gently draw a bunch of lines across the area that you're going to be sanding. And what this is going to do is that as you sand over these lines, as the lines disappear, you're going to know that you've sanded enough. This technique is really great for using on veneer because veneer is usually pretty thin and you want to sand enough but not too much. So this trick will help you get nice even sanding. Alright, now I'm just adding some Odie's Safer Solvent to the entire piece just to clean it up a little bit. And this is going to give you a pretty good idea of what the mahogany is going to look like with a clear coat over it. And it is beautiful. Oh my god. Now this is also another kind of foam pad from Surf Prep, but this one is a little bit firmer. And I'm choosing to use this for the pillars because this will hug the curvature of the pillars pretty nicely and give me a nice even sanding. And I'm just moving back to that foam pad to start working on all the decorative bits on the pillar. Okay, so all of this veneer over here is just completely chipping and flaking off, so I want to replace it. What I'm doing here is just scoring the veneer and then pretty easily just breaking it off. And using a razor blade probably wasn't the best idea for peeling off the veneer, so I'm coming in with a chisel. Just sanding that surface smooth to get ready to accept the new veneer. And all you're going to need to apply the new veneer is your veneer, an iron, and heat lock glue, which is my preferred glue to use while adhering veneer. So basically step number one, you're going to apply the glue to the side of the veneer that you're not using. Apply the glue to the surface that you're going to glue your veneer to, and then let them both completely dry. It's very important that the glue is completely dry. Next, you're going to position your veneer exactly where you want it. You may want to use some tape to hold your veneer up. And then lastly, you're going to come in with your iron with no steam. It's very important that you do not use any steam when doing this. And you're just going to want to take that hot iron and touch pretty much every square inch of it. Now you're going to want to rock the iron back and forth. You don't want to stay in one spot for too long because you don't want to burn the veneer, but you want to get enough heat on it so that the glue reactivates and bonds with itself. And I'm just repeating the same steps for the bottom. And after the veneer is adhered, I'm just going to trim off the excess and give it a nice quick sanding. Alright, so I'm not going to show it, but I made a couple veneer patches because I had a piece of crotch mahogany veneer, but it just, I don't know if it was the lighting that night when I was doing it that I thought it looked okay, but I came in the next morning and it looks horrible, so I'm taking them all off. And I'm going to end up using wood filler instead, which is going to make color matching a lot harder, but it's alright, I think I could do it. When you're applying wood filler, you want to make sure that you really get it into all those cracks and crevices, really pack it in there, and then just smooth it out and even it out with the veneer. You kind of want to leave it a little bit proud, so when you sand, it'll be flush. I just realized I totally forgot to strip the feet, so let's do that really quick. Paint stripper is really great for something like this. When you have a piece that is very decorative with a lot of high and low spots, a lot of crevices, a place where scraping would be impossible, stripper just gets right in all those cracks and crevices and just gets rid of that finish. And as you can see, I'm using that stripper pad once again, just to get in all those cracks and decorative bits. And wiping up all the gunk with acetone. And since I have this piece laying on its back, I'm just going to go in and clean up that back panel, which is actually solid slats of wood rather than being plywood or fiberboard. Alright, it's time to tackle these drawers, which are a little bit of a mess. The previous owner taped and screwed a couple of the drawers in an attempt to fix them, I guess, with not much success. So now it's my turn to fix the drawers. And you can see here, there's a screw that's just coming through the side of the drawer. Ay, ay, ay. You also want to be pretty careful when handling these drawers because a lot of the time you'll find sharp things like safety pins or tacks, so just something to remember. I'm going to be sanding down every square inch of all of these drawers because they are just kind of hideous. And I'm actually going to be staining them a dark color to hopefully accentuate the mahogany. Alright, so I'm going to be making my own stain with Odie's Oils Pigments, Mr. Cornwall's Creative Colors. And to do that, I'm just going to be mixing in a variety of different colors to get the tone and color that I'm looking for. I think I mixed in like 3 or 4 different colors. And you want to mix that into the Odie Safer Solvent so that the pigments really break down. And when you found the color you're looking for more or less, you can add Odie's Super Duper Everlasting Oil, which is a great name. I love it. And you want to just give that a really, really good mix. And I'm going to be testing my stain on a little piece of poplar that I have here. You really want to get a piece of wood that's similar to the wood you're working with, or if not the same, so you know exactly how it's going to turn out. And yeah, I think this is the perfect color. I think this is going to complement the mahogany quite nicely. And I like to take a piece of tape and just write down all the different colors that I used in case I have to replicate it. And I'm just using a 1500 grit Mercamillan pad to apply it. I really love using these pigments because there really is no limit to the spectrum of colors that you're able to create. If you can imagine it, you can make it. I just had to fix a little bit of damage. These dovetails came apart, so I just put a dab of glue in each dovetail and pressed them together. And there was a small hairline crack along the draw box, so with my finger I just squeezed in a little bit of glue and clamped it down. You do want to be careful if you're applying glue with your fingers because the oils from your skin can actually interfere with the bonding, so just make sure your fingers are nice and clean. So here I'm just hammering in 2 small nails because I'm going to be applying Quickwood wood epoxy, and I want to make sure that that epoxy is something to grab onto. With Quickwood, you want to break off as much as you'd like to use, meet it in between your fingers until it's one consistent color, and then form it into whatever you're trying to make. Now I still have to sand it, but I think it came out pretty good. For the finish, I'm going to be using Odie's Oil. Odie's Oil is a hard wax oil, and it's one of my favorite finishes to use. I apply it using one of these Mercamillan pads. I like to take one of these pads and cut it into 4 equal strips, and then in circular motions, I will work the Odie's Oil down into the wood grain. And remember, with Odie's Oil, a little goes a very long way, so use it sparingly. And once the Odis has sat for about an hour to 2 hours, it's time to start the buffing process. And remember, you need to buff all of the oil off. If you run your fingers across the surface and it leaves trails or streaks, you haven't buffed enough. You have to buff until all of the residue is completely gone. I like to use a cotton terry towel to get the initial bulk of it off, and then I'll come in with a couple shop towels to get the remainder off. So here, if you remember from the beginning, I told you I was going to explain how I knew that this was solid wood and not veneer. If you look right here, you could see that there are 3 separate boards, which indicates that it's solid wood, but sometimes you have veneer that looks very similar. So how can you tell? You could see right here that the line separating the 2 boards goes over the edge. That's indicative of solid wood. If you have grain that's running the opposite way from the top on the sides, then that's indicative of veneer because that's most likely edge banding. Now I'm just going to flip you guys upside down for a second so you can see the underneath, and you can see that it matches the top. Sometimes there'll be a thin layer of veneer over a solid wood substrate, and if that's the case, you want to just check the edge. If the edge is running in a different direction to the top, it's most likely veneer. So I hope that helps. Alright, so we only have 2 more things to do before the final reveal, and the first is going to be cleaning up this hardware. And as you can see, I recruited my dad again to help out with this process. So the first step in cleaning up this hardware is going to be using Barkeeper's Friend, and he's just using a generous amount with a scrubbing pad, and this is going to get rid of all the debris and dirt that's been built up over the years. Just throwing it in a little bath of soapy water and giving it a good wipe. The next step is going to be using Brasso. And Brasso is really great for getting rid of all of that built up tarnish that's been accumulated over the years. Now this is sped up, but you really want to give this a really good scrubbing. It might take some time, but the end result is definitely worth it, as you can begin to see here. The third step that he's going to be doing is using Meguiar's compound, which is really an incredible compound for bringing out the shine and the luster in the brass. Now the last step is optional, you don't have to do it. And that is adding some Meguiar's yellow wax. And this is just going to add a little bit of protection, and it's going to take off all the residue from the Meguiar's compound. And just giving it a nice wipe down, and you could see how beautiful that hardware turned out. And the last step is going to be just doing some color correction on these drawers. I'm going to be using a combination of Mohawk's Blend-All sticks and their brush tip graining markers, and between the two I'm hoping to get a pretty good color match. When it comes to color correction, it tends to usually look a lot worse before it gets better, which is definitely the case here, but you'll see in the reveal, I think I did a pretty good job. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm just layering lighter colors first, lightly spraying a layer of lacquer just to seal in that color work, and then going over it with a darker color to more closely match the veneer. And you want to layer colors like this because if you just go in with one color, it's going to look pretty obvious that it was a touch-up. So, by using different colors and tones, you're more likely to end up with a successful result at the end. Alright guys, we made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching. I absolutely love doing this. You know, this is more than a hobby for me. This is my business, and it's really a passion of mine. And I really love the fact that I'm able to share this with all of you guys. If you like this video and want to see more like it, consider liking and subscribing. I'm going to do my best to try to get a video out a week, but we'll see what happens. So yeah, enjoy the reveal.